This episode of Generally Famous discusses subjects that some may find upsetting, including stillbirth, miscarriage, and alcoholism. Help is available. There are details in the notes for this episode on your favourite podcast app.
Generally Famous, proudly brought to you by Oppo's first flip phone, the Find N2 Flip. Generally famous for looking great and folding small to fit anywhere. Kia ora, Aotearoa, and welcome to Generally Famous, a Stuff podcast. I'm Simon Bridges, and every week I talk to a generally famous but always interesting guest about life, love, and what makes them tick. Today's guest has been a household name for many years and on our TV every night. But she's also been a professional ballroom dancer, a snowboarder, a political candidate, I think against John Key, reality TV star, boxer. Now in addition to being TVNZ's sports news presenter, she's a doting mum and now also actually an author. Welcome, Hayley Holt.
Thank you so much. What an introduction.
Well, there was so much in it because you've done so much.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot. You know, you've got to keep life interesting, don't you?
Yeah, you've crammed like a lot into those 42 years.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you sort of like, I was wondering, are you a jack of all trades? You know what I mean? Like,
You're saying I'm a master of none.
Well,
Simon.
I didn't say that, but like you're like on a variety show, you know, where there's all these different things that you've done. Why is there am I being too deep and meaningful to ask? Is there a reason for that, or?
Well, you know, I've thought about this myself actually, and I would say yes, I am a jack of all trades. And, you know, it could come down to the fact that I did have that ADHD diagnosis. Yep. So, you know, my interest flicks sometimes. But I don't know, because growing up dancing, and we also did all sorts of other things around the dancing, I was always so busy with a variety of things. I think I just got used to that.
Yeah, being busy.
Going
at it.
Yeah, and also doing something. Dancing actually wasn't my... It kind of wasn't actually my wheelhouse. It was kind of my mum's.
Right. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, and then I preferred books and school and maths, which was weird. And so I feel like I've got
all of that though.
That skill that was sort of given to me.
Yes.
Plus what I sort of naturally am.
Because I suppose I was going to ask you something like that, which is along the lines of what's your happy place, but what do you enjoy the most? And maybe it's a better way, because you've got like that very physical stuff. You've got ballroom dancing, snowboarding, go-go. I mean, they are would be my least best things in the universe, right? They asked me on Dancing with Stars. I said no way.
You should have said yes, Simon. It's life-changing.
There's a fine line between kind of humiliating and kind of endearing, and I would think I would have been on the humiliating end of it. You've had all the front of camera stuff, and then there is the ideas kind of, I don't know if intellectual's the right word, but you know, you've done your breakfast TV interviews, interviewing the likes of me. You've stood for Parliament. So I suppose it's what are you kind of what do you like best?
Ooh. I actually like the simple life best.
Yeah.
I am really happy when I'm on my parents' land up in Kaipara Flats.
Amazing.
Where
I've seen it on Insta.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And we're sort of thinking about doing a little market garden there possibly, you know, making use of it. That's where I'm my happiest. But I also need that other excitement as well. You know, it's kind of like two extremes, you know. I want to go hard. I want to be snowboarding. It's so much fun. I'm also in my happy place on a snowboard. And then, you know, I like to lizard a little bit, lie around in the sun.
But that's okay. We're allowed to do that, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Have sort of that bit of go-go than relaxation. I mean, in the go-go side of it, this just occurred to me when you were talking, was you'd mentioned that you know, ADHD, we know about the alcoholism, and we talk a bit about that maybe, but do you think, without being again too deep and meaningful or psychoanalytical or something, do you have a self-destruct thing, do you think, or is that not, am I overreading it?
Well, going straight in, aren't you? You know, probably, yeah. I think so. I mean, not to a dangerous level, but I definitely like to push
Or
things.
a risk appetite, I suppose.
Definitely a risk appetite.
That's maybe a better way of...
I love an adrenaline rush.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's almost like a disruptor type attitude, and I feel like the world does need a bit of disrupting.
Totally.
And I think that's also what pushed me into doing, running for the Greens as a candidate. I just feel like we all need to be shaken out of what we're doing because it's not quite working. I mean, it's working in many ways, but not in all ways.
No. Well, there's a lot that isn't working, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. No, that's really interesting. Look, well, let's run through these, as I say, this busy, tiring.
You look very
from
confused.
Well, I just look at it like I'm tired already thinking about all the things you've done. But let's go dancing. So, what I know from my intensive Wikipedia research is that you're about 7. Is that right? When what you've told me just now is mum kind of gently prodded you into a bit of dance?
Exactly. Yes, her friend wanted to send her daughter, my lovely friend Judith Mara, and mum was kind of like, you're going too.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of social for a while, I suppose, but then things just got a bit serious all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And the heels and the
dresses. What we talking ballroom?
Ballroom dancing, yeah.
And other styles?
We got into the other styles after ballroom, actually. So ballroom came first, which is unusual, and then went to jazz and tap and ballet. And I think I did some character dancing, I don't know, in there somewhere. Right. Plus swimming and horse riding.
And what, because my kids, got 3 kids, all preteen, and we've put them all into ballet, and I think, probably, I don't know, jazz and hip hop and various other. I don't think any of them have survived it. They've all in the end decided, no, we don't want to do this for one reason or another. We might get Jemima, our youngest, back into it. So I suppose the question from that is, why did you keep going, not for like 1 year, 2 years, but many years, do you think?
Do you know, there was an aspect that I loved. The social side of it was really good for me because I was sort of a little bit socially awkward, and I struggled to focus. It was kind of the social side of it, but it had a reason to it. We had a point. We were there. I knew what I was doing, and so it became, and then it just became sort of part of life as well.
Yeah, it was part of your everyday life. Yeah, well, you obviously got incredibly good at it.
Got really good at it, and that's a good feeling too.
Yeah.
I like that too.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
I did give up ballet though, because ballet is very controlled.
Right.
And it's kind of, for me, was quite boring.
You liked a bit more of the kind of
something a bit more
chucking things around, getting into it.
Exactly.
Would you you've got a son, and do you think you would put your a child or children into dance? Would you do it all? Would you do what your mum did to you?
I know. I've pondered this because my initial reaction is definitely not. But then I have, I've come out great because of it.
Yeah.
If mum hadn't pushed me, I probably wouldn't have done any of that.
Yes.
And so I'm quite thankful for it. So I don't know. It's a real hard one because it came with some issues.
Yeah.
And it came with that.
But I suppose everything does.
Definitely.
If she'd let you sit on the couch watching whatever it is, cartoons all day, that would have its other issues, right?
Exactly.
You'd be like, why didn't mum put me into dance or something where I could have excelled and been amazing?
Exactly. Why didn't she push me?
Yeah.
And I owe everything to her really for doing it. And then I would say I wouldn't put Raven into dancing, but then I'm looking into the kapahaka. I was watching Matatini.
Yep.
And I was like, I could become a...
Because your partner Josh, is he Māori?
He's Māori in Cook Island.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we know you kind of, just sticking with the dance for like 4 seconds long, you've done, I was going to say Strictly Come Dancing, but that's the UK version, Dancing with the Stars, and you had Daniel Loader and Brendan Perongia and Pete Ehrlich, I think, were your partners, because you were the pro, right?
Yeah.
You were showing them what to do, and you were with Candy Lane for a long time, so, you really, and you won competitions. You were NZ sort of number 1 or something?
Yeah, professional national champs. We went over to Blackpool, which was like the biggest dance comp in the UK, and did really, really well over there.
Do you remember Blackpool?
Yeah.
It's like a godforsaken place, isn't it, of trailer park trash or the UK equivalent.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. They were lovely people.
And they've got some elegant ballroom dancing malarkey going on.
It's super strange. It's like every year, it gets overrun by these fabulous Italians who come in with their tans and their beautiful hair and their jewels dripping off them.
You're basically describing me right now.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, amazing place. And then we walked around and got some Blackpool rock and looked at the weird sort of roller coaster that's on the sea. I mean, it's strange.
Yes. I just want to say, because I feel like there'll be emails coming in to Chris Reed, our producer, on this. I've never been to Blackpool, okay, but my wife went there every summer.
My God.
Her father would take them up, and that's her view of it, right? So don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger. That's Natalie's view of Blackpool, okay? Anyone who comes from Blackpool. Do you either by yourself alone in a room or with Josh, do you dance now?
Yeah.
Do you?
By myself alone in the room a lot, which actually...
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, wasn't that competitive, but if I think about it, I still drum a lot in my head.
Yeah.
And I think then every so often someone catches me in a lift or something, I think I'm a weirdo, and I'm doing it with my teeth and stuff, and that's really weird. But, so you do, you would still dance?
The move, the spirit's still in me. Definitely move a lot, dance a lot with my son Raven. Yeah. I'll dance in a line if I'm waiting for a coffee. Yeah, if there's music, I'm sort of bopping, definitely.
Amazing. What about out in public, or out at? I mean, you're not a member of the local, I don't know, Ponsonby Ciroc Club or whatever it is. No. You'd be too good for them. No.
And people are surprised I was a professional dancer when they see me out in public dancing, because I'm just sort of like a normal, stepping around and bopping around, because I'm not going to break out a cha-cha.
Yeah. Because actually, could it ruin you in a way like that? You know what I mean? You've got, all you can do is these formal things. Maybe that's what ballerina would be like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's kind of funny when you see dancers out in a nightclub. We used to go out nightclubbing a lot, and the dancers would all partner up, and they'd be doing a cha-cha, and they'd be doing these fabulous sort of moves, and I was kind of a bit embarrassed, to be honest.
Yes. Okay, well, I've taken from this the rhythm, the spirit is still in you, and that's a good thing. Snowboarding, I must confess, I've never been snowboarding. I have little idea about it or you in snowboarding, but were you were serious at that as well?
Serious, very serious.
And does that mean competitive or professional or anything like that? Or
not professional, definitely competitive and sponsored. So we would, at first it starts as a lifestyle, and we would go down and live in Wanaka and then go
post-dancing?
Post-dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking, mid-2000s or something?
Early 2000s. Yep. Early 2000s, and we just do winter to winter. In autumn and spring, we just work as much as we possibly could to try and save some money to do the next lot. And we'd compete. We had sponsors, so you'd get lift tickets and you'd get all your boards and your gear and your goggles. So you weren't paying for all of that, but you had to pay for your own travel and you had to pay for your food.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
No, I know.
It's expensive, all of these things that you've done.
It is.
The dancing through snowboarding, the kit and caboodle, and the travel, and the...
Yep, you find a way. When I was, after a season here, I'd come back up to Auckland and I would work for my dad as a builder.
Right.
And then at night I'd waitress. And then sometimes in the weekend I'd also be doing some shows for Candy. So that was just work.
Yeah.
And then you'd go overseas for 3 months.
Amazing. It sort of sounds good when you say it, but it's a lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work.
Not a lot of sleep, all of that.
And then also when you're trying to get a lift ticket, I used to work for Snowpark on shoveling their jumps and just on the park crew, and you're up there at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. It's freezing.
Yeah.
And then on your days off, you'd have to, force yourself to go back up the mountain.
Do you think the dancing helped you with the snowboarding? Just hearing what you're saying about the spirit in you on the, in your room with Raven, is that make a good snowboarder as well?
I think so.
Yeah.
It helped with style.
Yes.
And style is important. in snowboarding, I think. So me and my brother had a good reputation for having a good style too. He was actually a way better snowboarder than I ever was. And I sort of used to copy his style a little bit. But in one aspect of it, it was kind of, it didn't help with the spinning, because dancing has a completely different sort of tactic to it. You have to spot. You leave your head behind. With snowboarding, you've got to lead with your eyes. I mean, I had to try and teach myself not to do that. But I think it helped.
Do you consider yourself sporty?
Jack of all tradesy, sporty.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
I'm never going to the Olympics.
No, because you were saying before, when we were talking before on Game of Two Hearts, you were kind of playing the role of someone who knew nothing about sports. But actually, I hear what you're saying. I mean...
on Crowd Goes Wild.
Crowd Goes Wild, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
But you are... naturally, you're good at it. You're not putting yourself out there as the next... silver fern or something, but naturally you're good at it. Yeah.
I could have actually been a swimmer. I was swimming when I was younger too, and my swimming coach took my parents aside and said, she's got to choose between dancing and swimming because she's got a real future in this. And my dad just said, I think you should choose dancing because your shoulders are already starting to look a bit big.
Right.
I was like, that's terrible, but also true.
Don't mention that to Lisa Carrington. She's a very impressive specimen. But
she's impressive. That's the thing. It's impressive.
Yes.
It was pretty old school thinking.
Yes. Yeah. No. Shame on your father.
Shame.
We're going to cancel him.
He's already cancelled.
Well, that's right. Isn't that true of most fathers? Let's be honest. Hey, television, and then it's kind of somewhere around this. I suppose your break is the wrong word, but your break is Dancing with the Stars, right? Where you're the pro, and you're doing that for quite a few seasons.
I did it for 3 seasons here, and I did do 1 season in the UK, Strictly Come Dancing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So
how was that different from NZ?
Oh my God.
So different, just like mass production.
Huge production. And we were in the Beeb. So we were in the Donut when the Donut was still there. I think it's
so what's that? Like Shepherd's Bush or somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bruce Forsyth was the host.
Amazing.
I know. It's amazing. And
he's gone. So did you meet him?
Yeah, I met him. I went up and got his autograph, which I gave to my nana. And then everyone saw me do it. So then they lined up and he said, no more. And I was like, yes.
Was he friendly?
I mean, he was friendly, but you didn't go and talk to him.
You weren't going to get into come out of his
chat. Yeah, no, he wasn't.
Bruce Forsyth. He was still doing that when he was like 107.
He was pretty
and
much 107.
His wife was still 27. Do you remember that? She was beautiful.
What a legend.
And I was just like, what's all that about? As a 9-year-old or something when he was on television here in New Zealand.
Yeah, we know what that's about, don't we?
Charisma?
Yes.
Natural charisma. That's what it's about. I feel like I've got a bit more problematic on this podcast than I meant to.
You might have to cut
Good
that
editing can work all things out. How did you transition? So, we've done Treasure Island, Crowd Goes Wild, Shorty Street. I think was that what? Were you a character or?
I was a character.
I could see you as an orderly.
Oh, that's
sort of.
I don't know if that's.
Don't be mean about orderlies. How would a hospital function without an orderly?
This is true. But you have to wear those scrubs,
Yes.
I was glamorous, actually.
Were you?
I was an it girl called Olivia.
Well, you do that well.
Olivia Barnes was my name. And
I feel like I actually know an Olivia Barnes.
Probably. Yeah. I dated the old doctor. Oh, God, he's on it now. I've forgotten what the doctor's name is.
Right.
I went for a date, but then obviously it didn't go well because I didn't get asked back.
Oh, I'm sure you're fabulous. How did you then how did that morph into, I was going to say proper TV, but like interviewing stuff on breakfast and presenting?
So when I was on Dancing with the Stars, during that time I did Treasure Island. And because I won it, I think I piqued some people's interests. And because I was a snowboarder, Rick Solizzo got interested, and he asked me to do a few stories for Crowd Goes Wild when I was down in Wanaka 1 season. And then when I came back to live in Auckland, I got in touch and basically just asked him for a job. And he said yes. So miracle, 8 years with Crowd Goes Wild I was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How did you find the serious stuff, if you like? Were you fish to water, or do you feel you grew into it, or how did you? I suppose I'm thinking breakfast, really.
Yeah. So I found that like my actually more of a natural fit for my personality.
Yep.
I definitely had to grow into it. It was
Yep.
it was harder to try and gather all of those thoughts and into succinct questions, succinct interviews, and then sometimes my ADHD made that quite hard, focusing
Right.
on the interviews, and so I ended up going and
You would drift off or something.
I would drift off,
Yep.
and I'd be thinking.
Whereas you've got to be really
all
on,
sorts.
don't you?
You do, and you have to be listening.
Yeah.
And so I went back to my doctor, and I medicated for breakfast for
Right.
most of it, which was really helpful.
But that didn't mean you weren't enjoying it. It was just that you sort of felt like that's what you needed to do. Is that
I
what
just
I'm...
needed to do it. I
Yeah.
loved it. I actually miss breakfast so much, and I love talking about all those issues. And
So you could see yourself going back to something like that?
I could.
Yep.
The hours, though, were
Pretty bad.
pretty bad. I mean, not even having a newborn son can compare.
Because you were there with Campbell and Jack Tame.
Jack Tame first, then John Campbell.
Some of life's
Jenny May.
characters. Yeah.
How lucky.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to pinch yourself and go, "How-
Yes.
it's an amazing life."
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
Yeah.
When it is, I mean, it's hard work, but I suppose it has got its glamour.
There's lots of glamour, which
You're
I'm
meeting
used
fancy
to.
people, the Bruce Forsyths of this world. Who's the most famous dude or dudette you met as a breakfast?
As a breakfast host, ooh, I mean, Rachel Hunter's pretty famous.
Yeah.
She's cool.
She's generally famous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely met her and think she's wonderful. I was going to say Bette Midler went past, but it's the other one.
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand.
Was it?
Yes. It was one of those. Maybe
Barbara
it was Bette Midler.
Streisand.
I feel like they're the same people.
Tomato. And the sports presenting. Oh, no, actually, no, let's stick with breakfast because I've won highs and lows of that. Do you look back? Can you think of an absolute frickin' shocker you had?
Oh, man.
Where,
Yeah, I had some shockers. I mean, yeah, I can't be too specific. But yeah, otherwise I'll get myself in trouble.
Right.
Luckily, they picked up on things that I didn't think were too bad. Like, I made the news because I didn't like Ed Sheeran, which in that same show I'd said something really, really awkward, which I'm glad they didn't pick up on.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, well, they would have if it was me saying it, but for you, because you're the fancy presenter, they're nice to you.
Exactly. I think I swore a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember that. I think
Yeah.
you did one or two ones I did with you. It's like, Hayley, your father's watching.
I
If you
know.
think he's got a problem with
He's
your broad
cancelled.
shoulders,
He's
I mean,
cancelled, remember?
he's not going to like that sort of talk from a lady. And what about highlights, though?
Oh my God, the whole thing was a highlight. It's
Right.
just talking to you.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well,
was
that
always a
yeah.
highlight.
Well, you know, it's like Bruce Forsyth. I mean, you're only human. It's that natural charisma that sort of radiates like a natural glow.
But I feel like, yeah, I can feel it now. I feel like.
Hey, we're not that close. Just because people, because good media types, we explain what's going on. I just want to say we're a good meter apart.
Yes. if
But what
anyone's
Hayley is
worried.
saying is she can actually feel it across the table.
Yeah, it's radiating.
The animal magnetism. Okay.
I think actually I have to answer that though. The highlights are, and I'll use you as an example, meeting these people who you have an idea of what they are like.
Yes.
Especially, you're coming in, you're the leader of the National Party.
Yeah.
You have expectations, and then you
Yes.
actually just this really nice guy. And so that is cool. I really enjoyed meeting people and just seeing their humanity.
I think that's right. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't understand that quite, do they? They think, whereas in the end, we all eat, drink, sleep, poo,
Yeah.
and and what I've found over the years is people sort of think, oh well, that's something like cabinet or some other thing that'll be so much different and exclusive. It's not. It's just the same. It's just a different building or whatever, Same with TV, all of these things. In the end, people are, don't get me wrong, top people are top people at a level, you know what I mean? They're like you, they're a doer and they've got energy and all that. But yeah, no, we're all just people.
We are all just people. And actually, I'm probably jumping way ahead here, but when I'd go into the rooms, as they call it when I was in recovery, you'd get the broad spectrum of people. You'd get the business people, and then you'd get, people who might be homeless.
Yes.
Or there because they've been court ordered.
Yes.
And everybody had something amazing to say and something that you could relate to.
It's very humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
No, we need to come to that. So maybe just finish off there's so much to say. You've done too much to fit into a 50. So let's just quickly cover your sports presenting. I just want to know, like it's an insider thing, and maybe you're not even allowed to tell me and you'll have to sort of kill me afterwards, but do you write that stuff or edit it or does it just come to you down the screen and you read it?
Oh, no, it's definitely written. There is a script there. I will write a couple of things.
To make it more natural.
Just because that's, you got reporters on the job and someone needs to do it. So I might be, you cut pictures too, so I cut some of those pictures, which I really enjoy. That's that kind of maths brain coming out.
Because you got 100% in school, C. See, I've done my homework.
That actually is not true.
Oh, is it not? 99%?
I got 98 or 99% in an entrance exam. So, but I always did quite well.
Amazing, though.
Yeah.
9 times 3. No.
I'd always say
27. Okay, okay.
I'd always say that those times tables that's a memory game. That's
totally. That's memory, not me. Yeah, good point. Well, I got 43 the first time, but that was in fourth form. The second time, I doubled that and I got 86.
Well done.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just do some homework.
Yeah, because I was an accelerated class. Maths was never my strong suit. And then in the actual school, C went well, but it's not about me. So, and do you find the news stuff? I'm just being. Is it a little bit boring? In the end, you're just reading it.
News. News is important, Simon. You're on
totally.
it. It's really important,
Totally.
and it's important who wins the games. And I actually find the stories around the news really interesting.
Yes.
So, how does someone get to where they are, or what struggles have they gone through in order to, lift that trophy?
No, I agree, and that's what dare I say it, we on this august podcast we like, right? It's not so much the kicking of the ball, it's the it's all the things around that and the crisis and the drama and the pathos and all of that. But we know you're sporty, jack of all trades sporty, but better than that, I'd say, but that's okay. But are you a junkie that's following it, like you following the ups and downs of the latest travails of the All Black coach and what Ruby Tui's up to next and how the Chiefs are going versus the Blues? And
I would say that I do for my job, but I definitely switch off as well when I'm not working
because it's work.
Well, yeah, and I have a life.
Yeah, and you can only, you can pack a bit in there. To pack it all in. You can't just be on your phone.
No,
seeing the latest.
The All Blacks, though, honestly, it is a bit unfair, isn't it? Ian Foster was right, and I'm not saying.
Good, I like this. There's a headline in this. Keep talking.
Oh no, I'm not saying that Scott Robertson's the wrong coach. I think he's going to be fabulous, and I'm really excited about what the team's going to be like under him.
And he's a good dancer. He's got spirit.
I bet.
Yeah,
he could
seen
do
that break
dancing
dancing nonsense? I love that.
It is nonsense.
Why?
I don't think an All Black coach should be doing that.
Oh, come on! I think that's the best thing about Razor. I love that show. I love that he did that.
The best thing about him is how much he can, kick a team into line.
Yeah, true. But
yeah,
you think that lacks a little bit of decorum.
I just think maybe now
unbecoming of the office.
Because if he was really, really good at it. Because the All Blacks are elite. He has to be elite breakdancer. So maybe he could take some training.
If he wins the World Cup, or he won't actually, but that's because that's it. But if he won
See, this is the thing. Yeah. This is why it's awkward.
But
because we're talking about him, and actually Ian Foster's the coach.
Yeah, true. I got yeah. Well, that's their That's the rugby union's sort of debacle to work through. But let's say he won a World Cup, Razor Robertson. If he didn't break dance at the end of that and do some crazy moves, I'd think less of him.
Okay, fair enough. And I think if he wins the World Cup, he can
do anything.
Go hard.
Within reason if it's legal.
Within reason.
Yeah.
But up until then, he's got to, because the All Blacks have to be fearsome.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. Well, so yeah, you've got views on these things. You told me you don't sort of follow it, but actually, you've got a. We could keep going on this, but we won't get to the other things. Well, I know I've talked about Oppo's find into flip before, but I've now had a real chance over a few weeks to have a bit of a tutu and play with it. And look, there's so much I can't get over. I've talked before about its sleekness, how fashionable it is, both in terms of its look and its feel. And that's absolutely true as I've played with it over the last few weeks. What's also true is the large multifunctional cover screen is just fantastic. What that means is maybe when I'm in a meeting, maybe when I'm meant to be doing other things, actually I can see messages coming through even though the phone's not flipped. I can look at notifications and I can actually reply to those things. Heck, I can even take a photo. The other thing I like is the inside screen without a visible crease. This means a whole bunch of stuff in terms of the size of the screen, the ability to do emails, watch videos. It's as good as anything I've seen before on a smartphone. Finally, look, in terms of the camera, the flagship Hasselblad camera is again as good as it gets. The quality is exceptional, both in terms of photographs and videos. And look, that's true whether it's flipped or not. If you want to know more about Oppo's find into flip, go to oppo.com/nz. How did you get to adding in a bit of politics? And did you stand twice or once?
Once. I stood once.
17?
Yes, 2017.
So that actually wasn't against John Key. I lied about that.
No, it wasn't, but I wanted it to be because he was...
still the MP.
He was still the MP of Helensville.
So you did debate him?
And I didn't debate him.
You didn't, right.
And so I announced that I was going to run in the seat in Helensville. And so the headlines were like, going to go up against John Key. That very day, probably about 9:30, he announced he was stepping down. So my plan was foiled.
It was you. Do you think that it was you that you scared him out of it?
Definitely.
He knew that safe blue seat was going green. I mean, there's no the likes of your father would definitely say no. Stuff 40 years of politics. I'm going Hayley Holt green.
Well, my dad did.
Good.
I mean, he's the ultimate swing voter.
Well, if he didn't, I'd think less of him. He's got to be backing his daughter's party.
No, actually, you don't. You have to go with what you believe.
Oh, where'd you learn that?
But I did convince him. Not now.
Are you still agreeing? Are you still? And there's no right or wrong answer on this. And don't think I couldn't get less. Well, that sounds flippant. But are you still? Do you still consider yourself an active Green supporter?
I am. Definitely believe in the issues. I believe in their policy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've pretty much voted Green. I mean, not that you meant to say this, but since I started,
it might be a bit more problematic if you were the sort of lead politics dude or dudette at TVNZ, but you're sports, so that's okay.
But the thing is, I believe in consensus, and I definitely have.
Well, not
I
on
believe
Razor
that
Robertson,
there are some...
you don't. You've been very polarising.
I know. But I just believe there are great things about all parties, And I used to believe that the Greens could write the policy. Mm. The Nats could actually implement it because that would work. Yeah.
Well, I've always thought a blue-green government would be very compelling, but... Unfortunately, let's not go there anyway. I'll say naughty things and get yourself in trouble. Did you? What was your experience of being a candidate?
It was amazing. Trial by fire. And I actually love being in a dusty hall talking to people who care about that. I love all of that stuff. It's interesting, and the debates were great. Came up against Chris Pink.
Yes. In Parliament for Helensville. Yeah.
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 I loved them.
It's not actually called that now. It's got a
It's
better name that I can't remember.
It's the Rodney Sleep. Yeah, what
It's
is
something
it?
like, no, let's not. We'll waste 5 minutes on this, but because I feel like I could do it and then I'll offend someone. But
No, I'll be able to do it.
it's
if you pull it
like
up.
I know as soon as we know it'll be obvious. Now that's sort of interesting because I was going to ask you about the debates, but you would have had a bunch of 73-year-old National Party supporters in those halls booing you down.
No, they weren't booing. They were interested. It is kaipara ki mahurangi.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Kaipara, that's exactly right. We've talked, in a way, the highlights, the cool things you've done. But what is also incredible about you is you've had, if I can say this, more than your share of sort of hard times, tough stuff. And I think, no one can know your story without sort of having a sense of that. Alcoholism. Tell me about that.
Start. No.
Yeah, I mean...
and go.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had my share of tough times, but some of them have been self-inflicted. Like, my problems with alcohol. And I started very early. I started when I was dancing. So when I was about 14, we'd party after a dancing comp. And my mum, because she knew there was a lot of responsibility on me at the time and was, I was training a lot, she gave me that freedom because I was with, some older dancers and she trusted them. But it probably set me up for needing a bit more excitement. So I feel like I almost got arrested development. I jumped straight into this really adult world and I never got to slowly get there with my friends at school, if you know what I mean.
This is why I didn't take my kids to the Ed Sheeran concert, speaking of familiar, because it's like, then what have they got to look forward to?
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a kind of a boring childhood in a way.
No, and you've got to slowly learn, and maybe test a beer here and there, where I just went straight into it.
Right. And what I presume it then over the years progressively got worse?
Progressively got worse, but also, and I think it's a family thing too, but in my, I just can't drink well. I mean, I tried really, really hard for 20 years to...
By which you mean what? You have one, you have to have 10.
Yeah. But then, my brain would switch off. And then my alter ego would come out. And I could go all night, but I wasn't necessarily compass.
Right.
Yeah.
What were you, though? Were you loud and brash?
I was loud. I was dancing. I was always going off on some adventure. Let's jump over this fence and see what's behind it, that kind of thing.
When did you realise it was a problem? Big problem? Or was it that a long period?
It was a long period.
Yeah.
I knew it was a problem. My parents knew it was a problem. My friends all knew it was a problem. And they would sort of try and help me see that. But I didn't want to stop.
Was there a point where you sort of came out, as it were, about being an alcoholic? And I'm just interested in how that sort of went.
Yeah, it was a point. I think it was a Canvas interview, and I'd been sober for a few months, nearing a year. And, I felt quite secure in my choice and that this was going to be my new reality. So, yeah.
For a men level, it's sort of, and I'm not saying it should be, but you're a macho man, you drink a lot, and you had a problem with alcohol. But my question, I suppose, it seems to me maybe it's actually quite courageous for a woman to say they've been an alcoholic, they are an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Maybe.
Did you have a sense of that, or was it just a thing? It wasn't like that.
I don't know. I think I've always tried to keep up with the boys. And that was probably my problem. I've an older brother, 3 cousins all around the same age, all blokes, all, big drinkers. And they could have probably, got just as sort of, they're probably just as much of a troublemaker as I was. But they kind of got away with it, as you were saying. And I think their bodies can handle it more.
Yes.
Smaller bodies mean it can't process as quickly. And it used to really affect me. I I can't remember going, like I never used to put myself to bed.
Right.
Like
Just don't remember that.
I'm still a night owl and I still fight to sleep. But, you know, when you're on one, that's the last thing I want to do.
And today you don't drink at all?
No.
Don't touch a drop?
No.
Good on you. Hey, ADHD, again, I kind of start... When did you have a sense that was a thing?
So,
or you sort of always had an implicit knowledge of it, but then you got it diagnosed?
No, after I gave up drinking, and I was still struggling a little bit with, my attention, focus, and I'd gone back to uni after I gave up drinking because I needed something to do with my energy and with my brain, and I'd understand the concepts and I'd get it. You know, I'd be in lectures and I'd be loving it. But trying to gather everything into a cohesive essay, I'd struggle with, and I couldn't understand why. I'd have all these notes and I just there's just so much. And so I went to a counsellor who I'd been seeing for a while, and he was saying, yeah, I think we, after talking to you for a long time, I feel like maybe we could send you to a psychiatrist and see if maybe it is an ADHD thing, which it's a mild case,
right? But
it just definitely was. We tried medicating, and it's just like night and day. So
you medicate now?
No, I only when I did then because I needed it to write essays,
right?
And I did for breakfast,
right?
Because I was struggling with in the studio this night, 3 hours. Trying to be on and listen to people like yourself.
Yes. Going at you.
Going at me or...
To be fair, Hayley, I was going at the TV. I just had to get those key messages out.
I know you did. Answer the question, Simon.
And it worked polling-wise. Just to say, what does it mean for you today, ADHD?
How it affects me today is, it affects me mostly in social situations. So when there's a lot of people around and there's a bit of noise going on, I do struggle to listen to the person I'm talking to. I hear everyone else's conversation too, and I see what's going on behind them, and it can get a little bit overwhelming. But that's okay. I just have to deal with that. I drift off quite a lot. I think it does Josh's head in. He has to sort of call my name about 5 times, especially if I'm reading a book. Or there's this thing called hyperfocus. And if I'm hyper-focusing on something, it takes, a good 6 calls before I hear my name. Yeah.
That's very fascinating. Hey, thank you for sharing that. No one in New Zealand, I don't think, could be unaffected by your motherhood journey. And this deal there, and I'm really interested in it. Did you and Josh, your partner, did you? I suppose I'm just interested because knowing your story and sort of looking back at hindsight, was there a point where you both said, right, we want to have a child?
It was very. I'd wanted a child for years.
Yeah,
and we were hanging out on my deck one afternoon after breakfast, and I was in a bit of a maudlin mood, and he was just like, what's going on? And I think I'd been on a date or, and I was just quite down about the prospects, my chance of having a baby. I was nearing 40. And if you're trying to do it the right way at that age. There's years that you've got to get to know somebody, are they the right person? Do you want to marry them first? And I was just quite down about my chances of having a baby. And I was open with them about it. And I think...
And at that point, how long had you been with Josh?
Oh, we weren't together.
Oh, I see.
No.
So when you said the date thing, I was like, oh, okay, what's okay? Right.
Yeah, no, we weren't together. We were just friends.
Right.
And... he said he felt really sad for me, and he thought that I would be a really good mum, and he just, in his sort of unconventional way, thought maybe he could help. And so he talked to me about it, and we went on this really strange date, and because it wasn't a date to be together, it was like a date to see if something might happen.
Yes.
And anyway, magic happened, and Frankie happened that night.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. So we weren't even together. I couldn't even get in touch with him after that for 3 months. He didn't know I was pregnant until I was 3 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I'm sorry if I've got the timeline wrong here, but you'd already miscarriaged?
No, that
was
happened
after,
Yeah,
right.
that was when we were together.
And of course, I mean, we know about Frankie Ty, what was it, 6-7 months, pregnancy, stillborn.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me after that miscarriage.
Yes.
And kind of, because I hadn't understood that. As I'm going to read your book, by the way, and we're going to come to that. But, you, so during your pregnancy with Frankie, did you then partner up with Josh, or was it still that unconventional kind of thing where, he'd helped you with your, in quotes, problem?
Yes. At first it started like that, and I came at it with this determination that we were going to be the best of friends so that we could be the best co-parents that we could be. And I thought that if we sort of tried to get into any relationship, it might sort of mess things up, muddy the waters, and this was going to be the best way about it. But we started hanging out to become these best of friends. And I think we just started realising we really liked each other. Yeah, we saw each other in a different light during that time. And then just before lockdown happened, we actually started dating. It just happened one night. We were doing a little bit of a meet the family type thing. We were out at Coco's and I had my friends and he had his friends and his brother, and we had a really nice night, and it was kind of like a first date even though we were already pregnant.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of Frankie and the stillbirth, I mean, I suppose let's wrap it all up and how you coped with it at the time and how you now, with the birth of your beautiful son, Raven James, how you look back on that.
Yeah, so it was very hard at the time, of course. It was heartbreaking and really traumatic. But it was also very beautiful in a way. I did lots of work afterwards. I went to a therapist and tried to wrap my head around what narrative I was going to tell myself about Frankie and what it was going to give to my life. And what Frankie brought me was Josh and a grounding for our family. It really brought our family sort of down to earth a little bit. And then he, because he stayed so long, Josh and I did fall in love. And I saw how Josh acted over that sort of time and how caring he was. And so we fell in love, and then Raven James came, who was a perfect baby.
How old's Raven James now?
He's coming up 9 months.
Oh, amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
well, look, that's amazing. It makes me emotional hearing story. It's really beautiful, and, that gift that Frankie gave.
He was a gift. He was a gift.
How's Raven James going?
Oh my God, he's just a legend. He is such a champ. Honestly.
Why?
He is just so chilled out. I was dragging him around all of these interviews yesterday, and he's just hanging out the whole time.
Loving it.
Yeah, loving it. And he does,
Raven
he smiles
James.
for the camera. He does.
Amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. He's got a future in politics.
Yeah, he probably does actually, because he's very relaxed and he's very interested. He's very aware of what's going on, but he never makes a fuss.
Fantastic. Hey, how do you just let's go with the motherhood for just a little longer, and then I'm sure we'll have to wrap up because time is against us. How do you juggle motherhood with your high profile, being on TV looking at $1 million stuff?
It's quite hard,
Yep.
honestly. I'm really tired.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. I don't know how mothers do this. Society feels like we've just gone a little bit too far with what we're asking from not just mums, but families. It's, we've got these beautiful babies, and then you have to give them up to daycare, or someone else looks
Yes.
after them as you go back to work to try and pay the rent or put food on the table. And I've probably got it a lot easier than most people out there. There's single mums out there who have 2-3 jobs. It's so hard, and you kind of have to question how we're going about it.
Yeah, the modern sort of world we live in, and whether it's commensurate with that, as I say, sort of ideal, perfect situation. I was going to just ask you, if I Google you, weirdly what comes up is Hayley Holt, Jordan Peterson, quite high.
Oh, my.
In an interview you did with him. And I wouldn't say it was, a contest or anything, but he kind of talked about how, life potentially was less meaningful without children and grandchildren and all this. And you didn't react badly, I don't think, but you took him on at a level about that. I suppose now that you've got Raven James, I just was interested to ask you how you sort of feel about that now. Is it?
I mean, yes, Raven James has brought me so much meaning, and I did want a baby. I'd always wanted a baby. I was kind of, I guess, being the devil's advocate a little bit in that interview. I also have a lot of people on my Instagram who comment and say, thanks, Jordan Peterson, look what you... It's like, it wasn't actually his, But he's got a point. I mean, there is...
Yeah.
I think family is what life is about.
Yeah.
We're animals at the end of the day, and we're here to be together and commune and have our children and pass on what we know. And I think that's what life means. And
I think I said to you coming in, I think of my friends without children, how smug they are. They need a little one or three just to rip all that smugness out of them and show them what disposable income and tiredness and all these things can be like. Your book, I can't leave without touching on Hayley Holt's Second Chances. Why that title?
Because I feel like I've been given probably more than a second chance, to be honest. It kind of relates a little bit to my alcohol issues, but also my second chance with Raven, I tried with Frankie Ty, he brought Josh and I together, and then we got a second chance.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How'd you find the process of a book? And start. Give me a sense of it.
So I used to ghostwriter Katie Bosher. She's this Canadian who lives in Christchurch. Amazing lady. We just did hours and hours and hours of interviews.
Yep.
This was while I was pregnant with Raven and after Raven was born. So it was quite hectic actually, trying to pull up all of my life and try to make a story out of it and try to make meaning out of it. At times I wanted to pull the pin because...
Right.
I just sort of felt like I was going on about stuff that is this even going to make a difference to anybody? Are people going to enjoy this? And will it help anybody? Which was the point. I wanted people to be able to see my vulnerability and my shadow side and be okay, bit more okay with theirs.
I'm sure it will help. What you're saying to me, I think, is it made you vulnerable?
Definitely.
Uncomfortable?
Very.
What did you learn from the book?
I've learnt, it was kind of cathartic in a way, I've learnt that all of that stuff, sometimes you carry things, even from childhood, all the way with you, and it affects how you feel about yourself. But I've learnt how important it is to let that go. Because now I feel like I can let that go. I've sort of brought it all out into the light, seen it for what it is, and then I could just sort of, move on, look forward.
No, I think that's right. That's sort of what I got, I think, probably from writing a book myself.
Yeah.
National Identity, a wonderful book, also by HarperCollins. Let's just get that in there. Might sell another 4 copies, Hayley, and there's nothing wrong with that. Jordan Peterson also said in his chat with you on breakfast that, we're going to live to 90, so, kids, grandkids are important. When you look back at 90, I'm sure, with your dancing and snowboarding and so on, you'll be a fit buck rack right until elderly dotage. What do you want to sort of see? And I suppose what I'm asking you in another way is, what's the future hold for you? The next 48 years, I think it is.
Let's hope. I feel 90 at the moment. I hope. I mean, it's all about the next gen, isn't it? I mean, I want to see Raven grow up and get his own life and see what kind of man he becomes. My brother's about to have a child in April, his first. So
it's great when they've got cousins around the same age.
Exactly, and the cousins. And we're going to just see, the next generation. It's not about us anymore. I just want to see what they're going to do with the world, and hopefully they can help fix it.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, someone needs to.
Someone has to.
It's going to hell in a handbasket. Hey, I'm going to wrap up by asking the questions we ask every guest. We call this section General Knowledge. What's been the best night out you've ever had?
You're gonna...
And you've had a few, Hayley.
I've had many. I actually struggle with this one because I've had so many good nights out. And I'm going to say it's the one that I went out with Josh on that really, really awkward date, and we did some salsa dancing, and then we came home and magic happened and Frankie Tar came into our lives and he changed my life forever.
Amazing. It was meant to be. Mm-hmm. If you could be any animal, I always laugh at this one. It's such a freaking ridiculous question. What would it be and why?
A hawk.
Nice.
You know when you see them?
I can see that.
Sailing up there. They're powerful but serene.
I've just got this visual image of you.
Yeah. Sort of quiet. It feels like it'd be quiet up there, but also lots of adrenaline going on at the same time, you know. That stillness and movement. I like it. I'd be a hawk.
And with your dancing spirit and snowboarding style.
What animal would you be?
Well, different days, different animals. I feel like shark, tiger, meerkat, otter, all rolled into one. Like just, you know, different side, maybe a little bit of sloth in there as well. You know, you can identify with that. You've told me that, you know, a little bit of time out. Who would you most like to be trapped in a lift with?
This is going to be not the answer you expect. I would love to be trapped in a lift with a massage student who needs to get some hours up.
I love that. I can so identify with that.
Wouldn't that be good?
Some people don't like a massage. I freaking love a good massage.
I love it too.
It's so good. If someone gave me like $50 million, I would employ a full-time masseuse.
Good idea.
Little back rub before dinner.
Yep.
You know?
The foot rub.
Revitalise the blood and
the head.
Yes.
Yeah, all of it.
Oh, no, I so love that. That's a good answer, Hayley Holt. Thank you so much for coming on Generally Famous.
Thank you very much for having me.
You've been listening to Generally Famous, a Stuff podcast. This is the final episode of the current season, but we'll be back very soon with more big-name guests. In the meantime, catch up on any episodes you missed at stuff.co.nz/generallyfamous, wherever you get your podcasts. If you follow us on Apple or Spotify, any of the podcast apps, in fact, you'll get new episodes the moment they're released. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Thanks to my producers, Chris Reed and Jen Black, and audio editor, Connor Scott. I'm Simon Bridges. I really appreciate you listening. Generally Famous was proudly brought to you by Oppo's first flip phone, the Find N2 Flip. Generally famous for looking great and folding small to fit anywhere.